Hi everyone. I wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of a Unit 3 overview, what you can expect over the next 3 weeks for what will be your first major writing assignment called Main Story at a Glance. The idea behind the Main Story at a Glance is to help you do a couple of different things. First, it's to help you and help us make sure that we meet the information literacy requirement as part of English 221. So you will be conducting research for this assignment and you will be incorporating that research into your writing. Let me side note that for just a moment. Sometimes I think in English courses when students have to conduct research, right, instructors embed that research into huge pieces of writing, right? So you might have to write like a 10-page research paper or something like that. And when that happens, in my opinion, I think sometimes something gets compromised. The writing isn't as strong, or the research isn't as strong because you're asking for some pretty heavy components to be happening at the same time, right? It's called the cognitive load, right? The cognitive load is too great, and as a result, everything suffers. And so, in my mind, what I want you to focus on here is not the suffering of all of the cognitive load, right? I want you to focus on conducting some good research, on learning and becoming more familiar with incorporating research into your writing, on using quotes and splicing quotes and really kind of working on how you integrate evidence. I don't want you to be so worried about being caught up on, do I have 10 pages? Do I have 8 pages? Do I have 15 pages? You'll write something longer later in the semester, but it's not going to incorporate the volume of research that's required at this assignment. And so just as kind of a side note, that's the goal. Like my goal is to try to help you again with some of these more discrete skills. So that way you have that practice now. So when we get to those longer assignments, you have already practiced these skills before. Okay, so with that said, your goal is to write what's called a main story at a glance. And this assignment is based uh, on a type of article that is sponsored in The Week magazine. And you'll see at the bottom of this page, or sorry, the bottom of the page of the assignment, you'll see some PDFs of these of this type of article that I'm talking about. What the article does is it essentially takes an event, a current happening, something that has occurred anywhere in the world, and distills it into 3 different sections. And that's essentially what you're going to be doing for this assignment. For your assignment, those 3 sections are what happened, what do others say about it, and what do I think? Each of those sections needs to be about 300 words. The second section, what others think, that's where the bulk of your research needs to be, and you need to have a minimum of 4 sources. So if I were looking at a magazine, I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that the cost of eggs is $10 a dozen. Maybe the current event is the cost of eggs, $10 a dozen in California. Well, what happened? So you're going to be doing a lot of research and reading to find out what in the heck happened. Why are eggs so expensive right now in the state of California? And you'll summarize that, and maybe you'll add some research into that first section. What happened? The second section is what others think about it. Well, what are people saying about the price of eggs, right? Is it a problem that's going to be solved? Are we going to be paying 10 bucks a dozen for years, for months, for days, right? So the second section is where you are going to be pulling in the voices of other people who have something to say about that topic. Again, this is also based on your research. The third section is based on you. What do you think? What do you think about whatever your topic is? What do you think about $10 for eggs? What do you think about what others have to say? The third section is really based on your opinion. Okay? So again, the goal, a main story at a glance. Now, what I want you to really think about is something that is current. I don't want you to go back a year. I don't want you to choose something so big that it's going to be difficult to conduct this research. For example, last year I had students trying to write about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, And that in and of itself, yes, that's a very valid news event, but the topic is too broad, right? It's too big. What specifically about the overturning of Roe v. Wade would you be interested in? As an example for last year. This year, for example, the war in Ukraine is still going on. Well, the war in Ukraine also very big. What might be something smaller within that topic that you're interested in? Maybe it's in NATO's involvement. Maybe it's in military aid. Maybe it's what's happening with Putin and Russia, right? So you kind of want to think about if you're interested in something that's really broad and big, I'm going to ask you to narrow that. And that's part of what you'll be doing on the discussion board and kind of making sure, and I'm going to be touching base with you to make sure that you're on the right track for your topic. But again, the goal is current events, something that you think has been reported by numerous people, right? So those little clickbaits that you see on social media, those are probably not going to have any verified information that you can use because you do need to conduct research for this assignment. This very first week, in terms of the workload, this first week, the module is going to look long, but appearances can be deceiving. It's really just some research tools for you to help you with the LMC library databases, to help you use Google more effectively, just to kind of give you an overview or a review for those of you who need it in researching digital information. This week, I am going to ask you to commit to your topic, and then I'll give you some feedback on that. And then next week, you'll notice that there's really nothing new in the module. Next week, the goal is to get a rough draft finished. Now, I don't have one assigned, but my hope is that you have one completed at least by the end of week 2. So that way, week 3, in this unit, right, at the end of this unit, then you're able to meet with me if you would like. You can spend time proofreading, revising, maybe adding additional research if you prefer to do that. It's kind of a short unit. It's only 3 weeks long. It's super focused. Again, we're really working on research. We are working on integrating evidence. And we're trying to be more concise, right, with our writing and not allow ourselves to ramble. So it's 3 weeks. It's in and done. At the very bottom of the assignment page, you'll see some PDF examples of the week articles. And I also provided a link to the week magazine online so that you can access that yourself also. So I hope that you enjoy this unit and you find it worthwhile and you're able to research some good current information.